If you're a local service business that's not already making 5 figures per month from Google, then this is the playbook you need to start following today. I've spent months compiling the best local SEO information into one playbook so you can easily implement it in your own business. There are 5 levels to this playbook and 31 days worth of activities. So if you're ready to actually see some changes, we'll buckle in because this is going to be a long one, but we're going to jump right into it with level 1, which are making sure that you have the local SEO foundations down. Now, the first thing you need to do is set expectations for local SEO. How long is this going to take? Is this going to take forever? And the fact of the matter is that there are different flavors of SEO. In fact, there's national SEO, e-commerce SEO, SaaS SEO, but we're talking about local SEO. This is for service businesses that serve local customers. The nice thing about local SEO is it doesn't take as long to get results as some of those other types of SEO. But you need to know that timeline is just an estimate. Now, I've gone down rabbit holes where I break this down even further, but really the biggest thing I like to tell small business owners is don't overthink the timeline. Just know that there are some of your competitors right now that are showing up above you on Google and they're making money while you're not. So stop overthinking it and start getting help with this. And that's exactly what you're doing right now. Great work. So set your expectation that this is probably going to take a little bit, but I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do so you don't need to worry about it. So if your expectations are set, we can move on to the next day where we're going to break down what's most important for local SEO. And by the way, if you want to follow along with this custom GPT right here, just go to 30dayseo.com/chat. You do not have to enter your email. It's going to start a new chat GPT chat with this custom GPT that's made from the 30-day local SEO playbook. Okay. So again, 30dayseo.com/chat should open up a brand new chat. And if you just do like I did right there and type in day 2, then that'll open up each day's worth of tasks. So day 2, we're talking about what matters most, because if you're not targeting what matters most, then are you really going to get the best results? And I think there's only 3 things that really matter for local SEO. Let's try to keep it simple here, okay? Number 1 is your Google business profile. Those are the little rectangles that show up next to the map, okay? Or I like to call it the map pack. Your website is super important. You need to tell Google what you do and where you do it, okay? That's massively important. And then from there, you need to build authority through links. Don't worry, we're going to talk a lot about this. If you're a small business owner, you have no idea what I'm talking about, don't worry, we're going to circle back to that stuff way later, okay? Now, I like to talk about this TLC method, okay? To get more business for your service business, what you need to do first is you need to get more traffic to your site. Once they're on your site, you want to get more leads in the form of contact forms, calls, emails, and then that's going to turn into clients, right? That's what we want. But before that, we have to make sure we're targeting the right keywords, okay? And then once we're targeting the right keywords, we want to make sure we're showing up for those. Remember, keywords are when people search something into Google and enter, that's a keyword, that phrase. You want to make sure you're showing up. And then over time, you want to start showing up higher. What that's going to do is get people to start showing up to your website. That's where the TLC starts. So everybody talks about, oh, we got to get more people to your website. But really, SEO starts by the very beginning. We have to make sure we're targeting the actual phrases that people are using on the way to working with people just like you. All right. Trust me, your competitors are already doing this. And so don't stay behind. Let's get ahead. Okay. And so let's start trying to figure out what are people searching for on the way to your business. Okay. And let's get started with the next day and start looking for your primary keywords. Now, I think each business has a primary keyword and that they also have primary keywords for each one of their services. So typically speaking, when it comes to local SEO, it's usually going to be like your service, city, state, especially if you're in America. And then it might also just be city service or service near me and service. Okay. So use common sense. You know, if you're a roofer, then it's probably something like, you know, roofing or roofing contractor, city, state. Now, there's a couple different ways that you can check to see what people are doing, including using SEO tools. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to use SEMrush's keyword magic tool to double check this. Make sure you set up a free account. You don't have to have a paid account. SEMrush is this very expensive SEO tool that I pay hundreds of dollars per month to. SEMrush, where's the kickback? Later on, it might make sense to sign up for a free trial of all the advanced tools, and you can get a free trial, 7-day free trial at thencandesigns.com/SEMrush. But right now, just use the free plan to get 10 free actions per day. Okay, so stick to that free plan for now. Now let's not overcomplicate things. Let's just start with something simple. Let's just go with roofer and you're going to get all these results here. So we got roofing companies near me. Okay, that one had the most search traffic. So I'm going to click on that. That's going to bring up the keyword overview tool. Now this is at a national level. We're just starting here. So we're seeing roofing company and roofing companies. I'm going down here to the keyword ideas tab, and I'm not seeing anything that has a ton more traffic. So then I could go back up here now and I could say, okay, let's put in our city and state. Bend, Oregon. So we got 170. If I go down here, yeah, that looks like the right one. And then I'm gonna just take out companies. Let's just do roofing, Bend, Oregon, roofing. Also 170. Oh, okay, 210, roofing contractors, Bend, Oregon. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to save some of my actions here, but we're going to say roofing contractors, Bend, Oregon as our primary keyword. So if we were a roofing company in Bend, Oregon, that's what we'd want to target. That's our primary keyword. Now, if you're brand new to keyword research, we definitely have more keyword research videos on this channel. So you want to dig in a little bit deeper because this is a massively important step, but just make sure it has commercial intent and that it has local intent. What that usually means is if somebody's searching for your service in your location, that's commercial intent. So you're good to go. And you want to make sure that there is some volume. Okay. Now, if you actually follow along in a 30-day local SEO playbook, I actually go through like validating this by also looking at Google Keyword Planner, which is a free tool that Google provides so that we can see Google's direct data. So I encourage you to do that. And once you're done with that, you want to go through and do this for all of your services. So if you're a roofer, you would probably want to target metal roofing and flat roofing and composition roofing and maybe even gutters, right? Siding, things like that. The key here is that you're going to want to start clustering your keywords based on the services that you offer, but make sure you have your main primary keyword because we're going to use that for a tool that's going to help you get potentially the most leads that you'll get for your business. So for a roofer, it could be roofing contractors near me. For us, it's SEO Bend, Oregon, because we do SEO in Bend, Oregon. And if you're, say, a general contractor in Boulder, Colorado, it would be something like general contractors, Boulder, Colorado. So this is the main keyword for your business as a whole. Before we dig into day 4, I just want to show you this first couple pages of the 30-day local SEO playbook. Talks about some of the results, and some of these are old. I got some better case studies I could share with you here, but like this is where this company hired a different digital marketing company that was running Facebook ads, and just look at those results, right? And then after they started working with us, and these are views on Google, which remember is massively important because that's the middle of the road, right? After this comes the traffic and then the leads and then the clients. So this stuff totally works. And in day 4, we're going to talk about GBP audit, which by the way, I also have videos linked to some of these. And so you definitely want to grab the actual 30-day SEO playbook, 30dayseo.com. All you got to do is give me your email and you'll get access to this Google Doc right here. Sounds like a pretty fair trade for a 100-page document, don't you think? But we'll switch back to the ChatGPT version because it's doing a good job of summarizing right now. So the first thing you want to do for GBP audit is I like to use the Plepper Chrome extension. Currently, it's not working so well as of today's recording. So I might not be able to do all the things. There's another tool out there called GMB Everywhere that you could try out, but you get a limited number of uses. So I prefer Plepper because it's free. But if you're just doing your own business, you could totally use GMB Everywhere to do most of what we're going to do today. So there's a couple things you want to check out. And most of this you can see from the back end of your Google Business Profile anyway. So you want to check your primary business category, and let's just show you where that is really quick. So here's the back end of a GBP. Sorry for the not dark mode. Should it refresh? Nope, it's still going to be not dark mode. If you click Edit Profile, your primary business category is the one that surprisingly says primary here. Okay, so that is your primary business category. You want to check that out. Also, you want to look at your business name. Make sure you're not stuffing any keywords unless you have a DBA for your business, doing business as. We have a video on that, so that's a good one to check out. Just search for it on the channel. And then make sure you're following Google's name guidelines. I wonder if that actually links to the right thing. Hey, it does. So secondary categories. So you can see this, the other categories that are below the one I just showed you, those are the secondary categories. Eventually we're going to want to spy on our competitors. That's where Plepper comes in. Okay, so we'll circle back to that. You want to look at your review count. How are we doing review wise? Like, do we have a lot? Compare it to your top 3 competitors. We'll check on that here in a sec. Are you responding to reviews? How many photos do you have, especially compared to your top competitors? if they only have a few, then you don't have to worry about, having hundreds. And one of the big takeaways from all this, I hope you get, is that SEO is kind of a competition. And so like, think about if you're in a weightlifting competition, if you can lift 150 pounds and you ask me, is that good? I don't know. It depends on who you're competing against. If the rest of the lifters minimum is 200 pounds, you're going to lose to everybody. But if the maximum of everybody is 100, you just beat everybody. So it's very relative. Okay. So that's just something to think about. What's our current ranking position? Sometimes with small businesses, I'll just encourage you to do that by hand. We'll talk about some more tool that we can use to do this as well. But you can just count, right? How far down am I? The Q&A section, have you or customers ask questions before? Are they being answered? You can also add your own FAQs. We're going to talk more about that later. But if you have a couple in your back pocket right now, you can do that. We're going to talk about GBP optimization in a couple days. And have you ever posted a GBP update? And then the last thing is the business description. This is not a direct ranking factor, so you don't have to worry about keyword stuffing, but definitely talk to your customers here. Okay. Now, in a couple days, we're going to talk about how to do GBP optimization fully. So we're not going to worry too much about this right now. Oh, okay. Plepper's working great today. So Plepper is actually in this box over here. Hopefully you can see that right here. And so you can see all of the secondary categories for this business. It's ranking first. Also kind of looks like they're stuffing keywords here, right? Tactical roofing and construction, Bar Bend, Oregon. So that's something that we'd want to double check. If, say, we were managing SEO of one of their competitors, we'd want to make sure that they actually have a DBA for that. And if they don't, then you can actually suggest and edit. So one of the biggest things you could do is, it's called spam fighting. So you got to watch out for stuff like that. But anyway, it definitely looks like they're doing SEO. So I would go through and probably look at that. You can also see the number of reviews they have here. And I feel like they used to have photos on here, but I'm not seeing that. But you can also just go over to, let's see, photos right here and, see what they have. Looks like just a few, so not a whole lot. But yeah, that's one way you can check out your own profile or your competitors. And also if you type in here, so I had to hit refresh to get to pop up, but if you look over here, there's actually a list of all of the services. And so this gives you a good idea of like the general gist of the list that you'd want to have for your list of categories. And why is that so important? It's because, most service businesses offer multiple services. And so if you're not putting that secondary category in, it's very unlikely that you're going to show up for that. So you've got to make sure that you're putting in kitchen remodeler if you're a general contractor. You got to put in, bathroom remodeler for your general contractor. So there's all these secondary services that you need to be looking out for. And the best way to figure out which ones to include is to spy on your competitors. Okay, this is mostly just a cursory GBP audit. We feel better. We know more about our GBP at this point, and we probably have some ideas of things that we can do. We're going to come back and we're going to optimize here in a second. But first, we want to make sure we're starting to track our results. And that's where day 5 comes in. So you want to set up tracking. Now, the flow I like to look at it is, again, you start with the keywords. Now, if you're just getting started, you're just doing your own, SERPFox is a great tool to check out because you get 10 keywords for free. And so if you're just focused on your primary keywords for each one of your services, you can get away with this tracking absolutely free. Also in SEMrush, you get a free project. I think you get about 10 keywords with that as well. I'm not 100% sure. But if you're going to be like really focusing on your own SEO efforts, I'd highly encourage you to spend the $100 and something per month or whatever it is, because all the tools that are in SEMrush plus their position tracking, it's worth it, okay, just to be able to keep track of that. Especially if you're trying to be like the marketing person at your small business, you should have something like SEMrush. You should have a professional tool. So ask for that budget. But if you're just getting started, SERPFox is a great tool. The big idea is you want to make sure that you have a graph. You want to see it going up and to the right, the ranking, right? So you should be, if you're at 30th for a specific keyword, you want to see it starting to go up. Now there is a limitation because what gets you to rank higher really doesn't depend on any of the content or any of the changes we're about to make to the website in the early days. It actually has to do with authority. Remember that thing, authority with links I was talking about earlier? But what we can do is help with the relevancy. So SEO comes down to two things, relevancy and authority. Relevancy is telling Google what you do and where you do it, and authority has to do with building links that point to your website. Now, the relevancy piece is massively important because if you don't get that right, you're not even going to be showing up for the right searches. So you have to make sure you're getting that right. That's what we're going to talk about over the next couple of days. But make sure you're tracking your keywords. Otherwise, you'll have no idea if you're doing good work, right? So that's the first thing. The next thing you want to set up is Google Search Console. Now, chances are if you already have a website, this was probably set up by your web designer or you got this going when you first started your site, but make sure you have this going. This is going to tell you how many people are seeing your website on Google each day. It's actually really easy. You just need to add one text record to your DNS area. And if you don't know how to do that, trust me, just look it up. You will find the directions to that. It's super easy. You just have to figure out who your domain provider is. The next one is Google Analytics. I don't spend a whole lot of time looking at Google Analytics, but it is nice to see your traffic going up based on your SEO efforts. But just know that traffic can fluctuate based on things like seasonal changes, right? So SEO is not about getting traffic to your website. Pay attention to that. It's actually about getting you to show up higher on the search engines. Everything else is mostly conversion rate optimization and also like click-through rate optimization, which I wouldn't really say is SEO. Like our goal should be to get you showing up for as many keywords as possible and not like thousands, like just a few dozen, and then to get you ranking higher on those searches. That's really what SEO comes down to. Now I'm going to talk about some things because most people that do SEO and also small businesses, which these videos are aimed at, you're going to be worried about other things beyond SEO, but just know that's not SEO. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is your technical SEO. You want to make sure your site's dialed in. A cleaner sitemap means you're more likely to get your changes indexed after you make them. And I really like Ahrefs because they have a site audit tool that's completely free as long as you can verify ownership. So as long as it's your website, you can do that. And let's run a baseline crawl right now if you're actually following through with this video and you want to see if there are any errors. Don't worry, we're going to talk more about these later, but you want to start getting that score. It'll actually give you like a number between 1 and 100. And a lot of people, like even if you think your site's dialed in, there'll be a couple things that you'll want to fix. Again, a clean sitemap makes Google happy and makes you more likely so your pages will be indexed later when you start making changes. And the last tool that I like to use is a conversion rate optimization tool called Clarity. It's free and it's GDPR compliant, and so I highly encourage that one. I used to use Google Tag Manager as well alongside it, but you can actually just install the Clarity tag on its own. Trust me, if you look up how to install Clarity, it takes seconds to install. And what this does is it offers heat maps and session recordings. So you can actually see how people are using your website. Even though this starts to get into the realm of CRO, which is conversion rate optimization, I don't care, because if there's a button that's not working and that's making it so one of my clients isn't going to be getting that job, I want to make sure we fix that button, okay? Because I don't want that to happen again. So that's not technically SEO, but it's still something we like to look at. A lot of these tools involve tracking, so make sure that you're just staying privacy compliant because things are changing, especially in the EU and even on the West Coast out here, and actually a lot of states in general in America. So just be on the lookout for the laws in your area. All right, now we're going to shift gears back to keywords, and we're going to look for our competitors' keywords. So now that you have your primary keyword, what you should be able to do is search on Google so you have a better idea of who your competitors are. So we're over here on day 6. We're going to do some competitor keyword research. And so what we want to do is I'm going to show you how to use SEMrush to do this. Again, you're going to use some of your free actions, and we're going to use the keyword gap tool. I like to do about 2 to 4. I would try to do 4. And then what we're going to be really looking for are the ones that are commercial intent and seem doable. And also really watch out for these trash keywords. There's a bunch of irrelevant ones. So we just want to really focus on the important things. If you go to the actual 30-day SEO playbook, again, 30dayseo.com, get your copy. All it takes is your email. This breaks down the steps a little bit more, and it's always good to cross-check when you're doing keyword research, okay? Okay, so we're back over here in SEMrush. We're using the keyword gap tool now, okay? So what you're gonna do is you'll add in your own domain at the top and up to 4 competitors over there on the right. I think I pulled that up right here. And so we're just gonna start going down the list here. And so we got Northwest Quality Roofing here at the top. And so we'll put them first. And then we'll take Greenlee. And then we got Royal Roofing. And then we'll do Deschutes. And then let's pretend like our client or our own business is this River Roofing, okay? We'll just pretend right now. We'll put them at the top. And then we'll do compare. And what this is going to do is it's going to give us all the keywords, right? And a lot of times I like to look at the shared, especially like if everybody's got this, then that, you know, they're probably important. So like look at all these keywords right here. Bend roofing company, roofing contractors, roofing Bend, Oregon, you know, Central Oregon roofing. All these are great. And there's a chance that we probably want these keywords for later. This is an action where you might want to save it for your free trial for SEMrush so you can get all of these. Now, if you click on all, oh, it's not going to let me do that without a pro plan. So that's why you want to get a free trial, right? So remember, thencandesigns.com/SEMrush, we got a special 7-day free trial just for you right there. But I encourage you to wait to do that until you watch a little bit more of the video. So mark this down as action number 1 you're going to want to do during your free plan is the full keyword gap analysis, not just for this batch of keywords, right? But you're also going to do this for each one of your services because there's a potential that your other competitors are ranking more highly for, say, flat roofing Bend, Oregon, or siding contractors Bend, Oregon. So make sure you do it for each one. You can export these, and I'm gonna show you how to cluster them here in a little bit. Now, right now, the biggest step that I want you to do is try to add these to your SERP tracker. Now, if you're gonna stay on like the cheap plan for SERP Fox, i.e. the free plan, then just focus on having your primary keywords for each service because you're gonna fill this up in no time. But if you're on a plan that has like 100 keywords, start putting a few more underneath each service. Don't worry too much about which one goes where. We'll worry about that later, but in the early days, we wanna start tracking as soon as possible, okay? So that was really the whole point of this, is throwing that in there. Later on day 9, we're going to sit back down, we're going to cluster those so we can be more intentional about how we use those keywords on our pages later on. Again, remember, relevancy is one of the most important things for SEO. But now we've made it to the last day of level 1, so let's get into that. And that's the Google Business Profile Optimization. This is probably the most I'm going to say it's the most important step of this week. That's not true. Every single one of the steps is super important this week, but you got to make sure your GBP is optimized. All right. This is a one and done type of activity. You're going to see that we do want to manage our GBP over time, but this is the step you cannot skip. Okay. So first things first, if you don't know what GBP stands for, it stands for Google Business Profile. It's the little rectangles that show up next to the map when you search for something near me, or you do like city state or something like that. If you don't already have your GBP, go to google.com/business, claim your GBP, and get that set up, okay? This is explaining to you exactly what you need to do to get that started. You're probably gonna have to verify your GBP if it's brand new. There's a video right here that breaks down the process. It's an oldie, but a goodie, trust me, okay? I'm still using the green screen back then. That was before we set up the studio. But it's a good one, okay? I think hundreds of people have used that now to verify their GBPs, and it's pretty awesome. Thousands of views on that one. But I've had like dozens of people actually say like, hey, you finally did it. Anyway, so now you want to go through each section and just make sure it's filled out. That's really what GBP optimization is all about. We have business description. You want to make sure you have your categories. And again, you're going to use Plepper to just spy on your competition to make sure you have that filled out right. You want to get your business hours in there. You want to get photos in there. And there's like baseline photos like your logo and your cover. You want to fill in your services and products. You don't have to worry about doing this too much in the early days. You can circle back and do some of this later, but you want to at least get some of it in. You're going to add your service area. Make sure your contact info is correct. Get certain things like opening date and accessibility if you have a physical location, attributes. If you're a woman-owned business, you want to add that too. And make sure that you're not spamming with keywords. And then make sure if you need help with this, check out our GBP masterclass video because it totally breaks down everything you need. And I believe this links to the old one. Let me make sure. Yes, this is the old one, which is fine. This one's great. This is a solid video with almost 2,000 views on Google. Thanks vidIQ for those live stats right there. But we also have a brand new 2025 GBP step-by-step guide with some updated features, so definitely want to check out that video as well. Okay, but you're trying to get a consistent 10,000 plus, maybe 20, maybe 30, maybe $50,000 per month from Google. So you've only done level 1 so far. We've barely gotten started. Maybe your GBP is showing up a little bit higher. You're tracking some keywords, but you haven't actually taken any actions. And so now it's time to get ready for level 2, and we're going to start talking about technical and structural SEO. So we're going to start fixing the things that are wrong, and then we're going to start creating our plan for how we're actually going to start getting our website show up higher. Because if you didn't know, optimizing your website can help boost your GBP and get it into that map pack, which is going to be massively helpful for getting those leads and getting you closer to those 5 figures. Let's get right into it with day 8, which is all about technical SEO. Now, if you're a small business owner, this might be one of the scariest days of the whole process, but you have to make sure that you get this dialed in, because again, if you don't have a clean sitemap, if you have errors on your website, that makes Google less likely to want to crawl you, because it's just a pain in the ass to crawl your website. Pardon my French. And so this is a necessary step, even though it might seem complicated. The first thing you want to do is go to ahrefs.com, get that account set up, and then, if it's your website, it's very easy to get it verified and add it to that site audit tool. If you're already paying for SEMrush because you started with the free trial and you decided to upgrade, then they also have a site audit tool that's pretty good. I think it's pretty good, but you have to be using the paid version of the platform to get access to that. So yeah. Now, the most common errors that you're going to run into are going to be 404 errors. You're going to have pages that used to exist, but they don't exist anymore. All you need to do is tighten those up. What you can do is create what's called a redirect going from this page to a page that actually exists, or it's not the most ideal, but you can also point it back to your home page. That might be better for some temporary pages don't exist anymore. If at any point you had a this is getting a little too in the weeds, but if you weren't using an SSL certificate at one point, you might have some HTTP links out there, and so it's just letting you know about that. So sometimes you can just fix that by adding an S to a link. Easy fix. Redirects that are pointing to the wrong pages, which probably lead to 404s, or it's pointing back to itself. These sound like complicated issues, but once you figure out what's going on, they're usually not that bad. And then also you want to make sure that if you're not indexing a page, say you have a page that's hidden to Google, but you want to show it to clients sometimes, maybe it's your pricing or something like that. That's a fine page to have, but you got to make sure everything's done right. So sometimes if you don't do it right, it'll show up when you don't want it to. And then the last one we'll talk about is just orphan pages. And so that's when you have a page that's not linked in any way, shape, or form. And so you want to either link them or remove them, or no index them. That could be another option, which no index basically just means telling Google, don't look at this page. And Google usually respects that. Now, you will also get some information about the page structure. So if you're repeating SEO titles or descriptions because you're using, say, an SEO plugin on WordPress, then this tool will notice that. Also, if you have multiple H1s, it'll notice that, which is not ideal. It might tell you if there's any internal linking issues, and sometimes it actually tells you about the speed on the page, especially as it changes. This is saying use page speed insights. I'm more of a fan of GT metrics. I think you can sign up for an account and then you get a couple free uses, but just be careful with that. GT metrics is definitely my favorite. Google's speed score is really strict. It's really hard to get a high score on that. And then last but not least, you'll get information about alt text. Alt text is a way to provide a better user experience for people that have difficulty seeing and might use the internet in different ways by using things like screen readers, but it's also a way to put in some keywords. And so don't overstuff it, make it so that our friends that have trouble seeing don't get a terrible experience on the internet, but also, hey, it's a place to put some keywords. So I'm sure they're used to it at this point. And so make sure that you're doing this technical audit and that you're trying to figure out how to work through these steps. And if you have any issues, please leave it in the comments below and be like, I'm having this kind of an issue. Do you have any tips on how to figure out how to fix this? And who knows, maybe it's something really simple, or there's another video on YouTube that I can point to help you out with that. But again, remember the point of this is that you want to make sure you have that clean sitemap moving forward. Okay, so make sure you have this as dialed in as possible and your Ahrefs score is as close to 100 as possible before you move on. All right, so now let's get moving on to day 9, clustering your keywords. Now, it's super important to make sure that you have related keywords underneath. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the way I kind of have this set up right now in the 30-day local SEO strategy. One of the problems is that the AI tools that are out there have just historically not been that good at clustering. And so there wasn't really anything we could do with it. But some of the new thinking models are getting better at clustering. And so At the very least, what I would tell you to do is if you can get a list of a whole bunch of keywords. I'm going to try to collect one here in a second. And to do this, you're going to have to either use Google Keyword Planner or you're going to have to use like a paid version of SEMrush. But you take this list and you say, hey, cluster by services and remove duplicates. That's really like the end all be all. Like I've tried to get too cute and complicated about this before, but that's it. That's really what it comes down to. So let's see if I can get a keyword list for us here. Okay, so I'm over here on our agency account, which is on the paid plan. So we're going to run this keyword gap tool again. And then I'm going to go to all, but you'll notice we have a bunch of trash keywords now. We just have spray foam and fascia board and all that. So I'm going to show you how to filter a little bit. So one thing I like to do is I like to filter the intent by commercial. Okay, and then from there, I want the keyword difficulty to be, let's say, less than 50. So 250. That's still a little high, but that's not too bad. Okay, now we're down to like, okay, we got 600 keywords. So now let's do position, all domains, we'll do, yeah, top 50. Let's see what that puts us to. Okay, that got us down to 19. So let's do, I'm going to take that down to 70. Let's try that. Okay, let's do the volume is under 10,000. That didn't make a big difference. Yeah, a lot of these are useless. Let's do 3,000. So still 647, but that gives us something. So what I'm going to do is underneath my head, there's an export button here. I'm going to export this as a CSV. And then I'm going to show you something that I think is pretty cool. So Grok actually lets you use their thinking model a few times per day, quite a few times actually. And so what we're going to do is we're going to upload that file. Now this is still pretty hit or miss, so we'll see what kind of results we get today. One thing for sure, make sure you have this think button clicked or it's not going to be very useful. But the prompt I used was cluster these keywords based on the services a roofing company might provide. Obviously replace if you're not a roofer. If the keywords aren't related to services, don't include them. All right, so that should exclude a whole bunch of the keywords from the get-go. Once you're done with that, create subclusters, but don't forget about the original service clusters. And then we're going to let it get to work. It's going to read that attachment, and then it's going to start thinking. And this is really where the magic starts to happen because it starts thinking behind the scenes and it's going to take its time trying to figure out how to cluster these. So that's perfect. I'm going to let this go for a little bit and we'll check back in on it shortly. So it thought for 58 seconds, actually came up with a pretty good list: roof repair, roof maintenance, gutter services, installation services, ice dams, which I didn't even realize was a thing. That's pretty cool. Snow removal is a related service that a lot of roofing companies have, especially in Central Oregon here where it snows a lot. And if we really want to narrow it down, we can say create a list with just the top 10 commercial intent keywords for each service cluster. That way we're not going overkill. And usually you get about 100 keywords per client on most plans. And so let's just try to keep that number under 100. And one thing that I notice happens a lot is you'll end up with like different cities. And so the last thing you can do is you can take this list, bring it over to ChatGPT or turn off the thinking mode. And you could say, you know, replace all instances, make sure the only city in here. Yes, I just wrote, make sure the only city present is Bend, Oregon, and remove any duplicates. And I turned the thinking off because it really, that shouldn't require the extra thinking mode. And so if you go back to the 30-day local SEO playbook, I'm talking a lot about how you're going to end up with more service-based keywords and also some related keywords. So like fascia boards and soffit, boots, roofing, things like synthetic underlayment versus felt. I don't know I have no idea what the hell any of that stuff means, but these are probably related keywords people might be searching for on the way to roofing installation, but really it's more like tile roofing replacement, roof replacement, Bend, Oregon, right? These are the actual ones, roof repair, Bend, Oregon, roof damage repair in Oregon, probably Bend, Oregon, right? We probably want to swap that out. And the last thing you don't want to sleep on is when you're really getting your like primary keyword for each one of your services, and go back to your search volume to double check this. The nice thing is you can dump these keywords into the SERP tools and it'll tell you like this one has the most search volume. So you're like, oh, okay, that's my primary keyword for roof repair. And then you could say, okay, well, based on that, I have it for Bend, Oregon. What I should also be tracking is just roof repair, like literally just the phrase roof repair, and also roof repair near me. So always make sure you have that service, city, state, service, and service near me. That little 3-pack is massively important for your primary keywords. Don't overdo it, just for your primary keywords for each one of your services, okay? That should keep you in your roughly 10 per service. And obviously, if any of these are irrelevant, then you can knock them out. So thank you, Grok, for finally giving us an AI tool that can help us cluster keywords. Something that Elon did right. Now, the whole point of all this is because we want to target our little keyword clusters to certain pages, because that's how local SEO works. You target that cluster, usually based on your services, to a certain page, usually your service pages, and that's what's going to help you rank higher. And that's why you want to have a plan. And so in day 10, we talk about creating your ideal sitemap. Okay, so step 1 is focus on your money pages. I think you have 3 money pages, and that's your home page, your service pages, and your location pages. Now, there's a lot of debate about which one you should target your primary keyword with. Sometimes it makes sense. Like if you're a general contractor, you should probably target general contractors with your homepage. Sometimes if you have a brand new business, it makes sense to target your brand name with your homepage. So it can be a little dicey. If you have a question, let me know. Like seriously, drop a comment. If you leave a link to your website, like it's not going to destroy your SEO strategy. If you ask a couple questions on a random YouTube video, like feel free. Like I respond to every single comment, even the not nice ones, but let's keep it nice here. We're pretty good around here. But your main money pages are your service pages, which are typically going to target your services, and you're going to have one service-based cluster for each. And then eventually you're going to build out location pages. Okay, we're going to talk more about these later, but this is the goal. Now, if you already have service pages, it might be time to start thinking about location pages, but most of the businesses we work with just have a services page, and you want to have individual service pages. So that should be one of the first things you're working on. Here's a potential site structure. I'm not a big fan of having that services thing right there, so I would just get rid of that. Although it might make sense to have locations there. We'll talk more about linking structures later. So there's a couple different ways to set up your permalink structure. Honestly, we lean more towards something like this, but it would probably just be plumbing dash repair. That would be the page for plumbing repair. And then you would just have, Austin as your city. It really depends on if you have a physical location or if you're a service area business. You definitely want to have the basics. An about page and a contact page are mandatory. Testimonials can be nice. Projects gallery can be super helpful, and this says legal pages are optional, but I don't think they are. Every one of our clients gets legal pages. We use Termageddon. They keep all the privacy policies updated for us. It's great. Use whatever makes sense to you to sketch this out. You want to kind of like build out your pages somehow, like just little rectangles. Like think about that, just little rectangles for each page, just so you can visualize. You're like, okay, here's a page for all of our services. We have our about page, our contact, our home page. We got our legal pages tucked away over here. Okay, that's why I said optional for legal, because you might not have it on your little sitemap here. But here's an example that ChatGPT just made out of thin air. But you probably would want more than that, right? Just based on the services that we had a second ago for the roofing company, we'd want to have way more services, way more service pages, about, contact, testimonials. What else? What else could be good? FAQ could be good. Projects could be really good if you have the examples of your work. And then make sure that we're targeting, with the money pages, you want to target our clusters. Now, there's a good chance for our about, contact, testimonials, we don't want to do that. And so literally just about, bar, brand name. That's probably what we'll do for the about. Sometimes with the about page, you can target like the thing you do, like the noun. I talk about this somewhere in the 30-day local SEO playbook. Like you might put that you're a woodworker or a cabinet maker on that page, and you would say custom cabinets on the home page or the service page. So anyway, I'm getting too much into the weeds. Let's keep going. So you just want to have a little bit of a sitemap, okay? Just have your little sitemap ready to go, so that way you know the direction that you're headed. Easy peasy. And now it's time to create your plan for your website. For all of our SEO clients, we end the first month of our SEO strategy sprint, where we're building basically our strategy with an SEO game plan, where we basically break down what we're going to do for them. But I will say there's a little bit of a shortcut, and I'm going to share it with you here. Most of the time, we take a good look at their website, and that's going to dictate the first thing that we do. Now, if you have a single page landing, like a single page website, so that's a landing page, the best thing you can do is move on to the next phase right here. And if you're at the next phase, you want to move on to phase 3, okay? So phase 1 is just a landing page, okay? It's really hard to rank for all of your services if you just have one page. Now, if you only have one service, then maybe that would be okay. But most service businesses that serve local customers have multiple services they offer, so you want to keep going. A proven winner is homepage, about, contact, service, and I like to call it a wildcard page, so something like a testimonials or a projects page could be great. This is a really good starting point for SEO, and I would say about half of our clients come to us with a website that looks like this, because this is the industry standard, like a 5-ish page website. But because you have a services page, you're not able to target those individual services, okay? You can kind of, but not as in-depth as you could as if you had individual service pages. Now I want to take a step back here. I'm going to open a new tab. And I want to show off Whitespark's local search ranking factors. They said they're coming out with a new one for 2025. Maybe they'll ask me my opinions, probably not. But anyway, when it comes to organic ranking, and just remember when it comes to roofing, contractor spend organ, right? Typically the map pack comes up first, then you have the organic results. These are the blue links below, okay? When it comes to showing up in the blue links, the number one thing is a dedicated page for each service. Those are individual service pages. So make sure you have those. So the TLDR is, no matter where you're at, make sure you're at least at phase 3. Now, this is a massive step up, but eventually you're going to want to build location pages, especially for service area business or multi-location brands. If you don't have those pages for different locations, it's really hard to rank in multiple cities. Okay, so we'll talk about that later. I don't want to say it's a more advanced tactic, but it's something you don't want to do until you have your initial service pages dialed in, and then you can reuse these service pages as location pages. And then way down the line, we're going to worry about phase 5, but literally we're not going to worry about that until day 30 and the 30-day local SEO playbook. So don't even think about that yet. So basically you just want to move from one phase to the other, and the rest of this is just ChatGPT slop. So we don't need to worry about that. So again, wherever you're at, you want to get to the next phase. Now, typically speaking, again, if you're a small business owner, you might just have a landing page. So your goal should be to try to at least get to phase 2. So build out those interstitial and connective tissue pages. If you're at phase 2, you want to get to phase 3. You want to go from that services page to having individual service pages. And I'm going to tell you exactly how to do that here in a couple days. And if you're at phase 3, then typically what you want to focus on first is actually revamping those service pages, okay? If you already have location pages, then you want to go back and look at those service pages and say, are they dialed in as much as possible? If they are my location pages dialed in as much as possible? It really just depends, okay? So this is really how, for an agency like us, we have a proven path that we follow with every single client. But what we actually do depends on the situation that the client's in. We don't just start everybody from scratch and do the same thing. We have to tailor it to where you're at. And that should be the same thing for your business, right? Okay, enough about this. We know we need to level up. And of course, once we get done with that level, then it's time to move on to the next one. But trust me, there's a lot to do at each one of those phases. So don't think this is light work. Now, it's been a few days since we've talked about the GBP. So let's get going talking about GBP management. Not my best English there on that one. So GBP management has to do with managing your Google business profile over time. Studies show that Google rewards activity over time. How do we do that? There's one thing that I think is massively important, and it's creating a GBP post strategy. Now, these are called GBP updates now, but a lot of people still call them GBP posts. So I'm just going to keep calling it that for the sake of simplicity. And what I like to do is create an initial strategy for how we're going to start doing posts. These are about 1 or maybe 2 per week in the initial phase. Start with an introductory post, maybe introduce the founder or the team, and then we're going to do 1 post for each service. And if you have any new pages later on, then you can definitely announce those as well and link back to them, because that can also help get that page indexed. And then I usually like to end this initial phase with a call to action post. So I like to do this about 2 times per week in the initial phase, just so we can kind of make a splash in GBP land. And then from there, we're going to set up recurring GBP posts. And basically all we're going to do is loop through the services and then also talk about the different locations. If you want, you can have customer testimonial posts, project highlights or case studies, promotions or events. And then for this one, I really just encourage to do it 1 time per week. That's it. I see some people doing this 5 times per week. This is not Instagram, my friends. This is GBP, okay? There's a really cool tool out there called Plannable, but with 1 N, not 2 N's. That's funny. that can help you schedule these posts, and it's free up to 50 posts per month. So for most small businesses, that should be a-okay. And then of course, use any AI copy tool out there. Claude's really good at writing copy right now, so you might want to check that out. And it's only one post per week, so you could probably get away with the free version of Claude. And so make sure that you have like a bank of your first couple posts ready to go. And by the way, there was an insurance agency in town. They didn't have access to their website, so we couldn't offer a full local SEO package. So we just focused on their GBP posts and helping them get more reviews. Unfortunately, they didn't get a ton of reviews. And so we got a really good case study on do GBP posts help businesses rank higher. And what was crazy was when we started working with them, they were ranking 20th or higher in the entire city. And by the end of just doing these GBP posts, holy smokes, they were actually showing up in the map pack, which is that top 3 in their area, and the phone calls really started to trickle in. So that was a pretty cool case study. And so we will make sure we always do this for our clients, and you should be doing it for your business. It's not that hard to set up. And again, I didn't mention this earlier, but studies show that humans don't look at these a lot. This is really for the algorithm. And I think as Google leans more into their AI mode for local searches, they might be checking your GBP updates for some information. So make sure you're not just putting slop. Even if the humans aren't seeing this yet, Google's suggestions that humans might be seeing, if they're pulling from your GBP updates, might get seen by humans. So be careful and craft those posts, but don't spend too much time on it. All right, now we're on day 13. So we're going to focus on optimizing the core areas of each page of your website. And these are the SEO hotspots, baby. Now, I'm the only person on YouTube that calls these SEO hotspots, but I want this to take off. So please feel free to use this phrase. And these are the SEO hotspots. They are your SEO title, your permalink, the meta description, the header tag, and also your body content. Now, this one's kind of an honorary mention. It's really the top 4, but you have to make sure you put keywords in there. And the question that you get a lot is, where do I put these keywords? Because Google tells us don't stuff keywords, but you kind of got to stuff keywords or they're not going to know what you do and where you do it. And so these are the spots you gotta do it. Okay, you gotta do it in your SEO title. This is the most important. You can literally just change the SEO title and make a massive change overnight. Okay, now from here, your permalink is massively important. Now, you can't really do anything for the homepage, but when you're doing your service pages, try to include the keywords in that as well. Meta description, not a ranking factor. However, it can influence click-through rate. So you want to make sure that you do have the keywords in there because they can be bolded or highlighted depending on how the search looks. And so you want to keep those in there in the first sentence. And then towards the end, you want to end with a clear call to action. It's going to encourage the potential client to click through. The header tag, which is usually the header at the very top of the page, you want to make sure that that has your primary keyword in it. And then there's a couple other places where you want to sprinkle in the keywords, the first paragraph, the last 100 words, and a few more times throughout. Now, there's actually something called keyword density that you want to pay attention to. If you actually go to day 13 of the 30-day local SEO playbook, I'll explain to you which tools you can use to do that. So again, 30dayseo.com. If you haven't already, get your copy. It's a Google Doc. It's free. Again, it just costs your email. If you're this far into the video and you haven't gotten the actual document that goes to this, what are you doing? And also remember 30dayseo.com/chat to go directly to the custom GPT so you can do this. And I think you can actually say based on, let's try this out really quick, real-time test. Yo, this is like low-key legit on this is pretty fire. So I first I said, what day did they talk about it? So it brought it back up. So this is a new chat. So I just kind of primed it so it knows what we're talking about. I said, can you create SEO hotspots for a roof repair page at Bend, Oregon? No other context besides that. SEO title, roof repair, Bend, Oregon, reliable roof leak and damage fixes. Okay. Gives us roof-repair-bend-or, pretty good. And then it also gives us a meta description, need fast, affordable roof repair in Bend, Oregon. Our certified roofers fix leaks, storm damage, and more. Call today for a free quote. Perfect. Ends with the CTA. Expert roof repair services in Bend, Oregon. That's a really great H1. And then if you're searching for reliable roof repair, our team's ready to help. We're blah, blah, blah. Contact our Bend, Oregon, blah, blah, blah. And then some other keywords to sprinkle throughout. Like that, we should probably double check our keyword cluster list, but that was clean. This custom GPT might be dangerous. I don't know if I should release this to the wild. Anyway, just testing the capabilities of this so far. I encourage you to stress test this bad boy and give me some fun results. And also, it's a custom GPT, so if you ask crazy stuff, it's gonna give you crazy answers. So anyway. All right, so we spent all this time getting the keywords ready, figuring out how we're going to hit our SEO hotspots. And I do encourage you to hit those SEO hotspots right away before you take this next step and see if you get any immediate results, because you often will. But now it's time to actually dig into the copy. And we're going to actually wrap around the 2 weeks here. We're going to start with day 14. We're going to talk about what the next level is. And then we're actually going to be able to create copy for our websites using different custom GPTs. So I'm excited about this one. Also, you may have noticed that I'm sitting down because this video is taking so long to make and my legs are tired. So here we go. So at ThenCan Designs, my little SEO agency, we're big fans of StoryBrand as a marketing framework. And so the first step to making any copy using StoryBrand is to have a brand script. And so it talks about a brand script, how do you do it, blah, 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 blah. And so we actually have a different custom GPT, which it did not link to here, but if you go to the actual playbook, it's kind of nice because it's got this table of contents over here. So you can go right here, create a brand script, go right here. I should be able to click right here. It should just open a chat right up. Perfect. Now, the best way to do this is if you click here, you'll go through the assignment step by step. I highly, highly, highly encourage you to do it like that. But let's say you don't have a lot of time, you just want to cheat right through, you can create a little brand script right here. That's what I'm going to do to create a brand script for a fake roofing company, but I highly encourage you to go step by step through this assignment and really fill it out intentionally, and then take some time, send this over to Google Doc, because you can use this brand script as a guiding light document for everything you do, from your Instagram posts to your emails to clients. Like, this is massively, massively helpful to do a brand script assignment. If you don't know a ton about brand scripts, then you should definitely do some research. Just watch a couple of YouTube videos out there. There's a lot of really good ones, just so you know a little bit more about the background. And I do talk about that here, like what is this, why does it matter, all that good stuff. All right, now this is definitely not the prompt you would use in real life, but it's starting to give us a brand script right here. And you're actually going to see in the next day, we're going to be able to use this. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy it. Again, I would encourage you, take it over to Google Doc, read it. You can also tell this GPT, open in Canvas, I believe, and it should open the brand script in Canvas, so you can actually make some edits right here, which is great for making edits on the fly if you don't want to go to Google Docs first. So do you see how we're starting to build a new website that is optimized for local SEO? We're going to level you up here, and we're also not forgetting about that GBP, which is that first thing that shows up. Now, you may have noticed we haven't talked about authority yet, but remember, it comes down to two things: relevancy and authority. We got to get the relevancy right, then we can focus on the authority. Don't worry, we're going to spend a whole week talking about authority, pretty much. So now let's get ready to level you up again, because we're trying to get that 5 figures consistently through Google. So in level 2, we really focused on the technical and the structural. And now we're going to talk about how do we make sure we got our content creation dialed in, and we want to make sure that we're still focusing on that GBP, especially when it comes to reviews, because that's massively helpful to show up in that map pack. All right, I will say this custom GPT's been doing better than most of the ones I've made, but it finally did hallucinate. It tried to give me a different thing for day 15. So if you just add refer to the doc, it seems to make it search the knowledge base first. So again, we are huge fans of StoryBrand at ThenCan Designs, my local SEO agency. And so it's like they give you a template for how a service page should look. And here it is right here. And we actually have, you guessed it, a custom GPT for it right here. There it is, StoryBrand Copywriter. So we can click, I have a brand script. Now, the one thing you want to make sure that you do is you want to tell it what you're doing. Like we're building a service page for a roofing repair page in Bend, Oregon, something like that. And then just a delimiter, and then paste in your brand script. We named our company Master Roofers. Now be sure to check out my perfect on-page SEO structure, or whatever the heck that video was called, because I talk about what eyebrow copy is and things like that. But this is exactly the general framework that we would want to follow for a page. And so you can kind of see what this looks like, right? The problem that a lot of people do when they use a prompt is they're not actually getting copy that looks like what a website would look like. But this is what a website looks like. It's actually like bullet points. It's not, people don't read websites, they skim, right? If you want better social proof, you could also feed it some testimonials. You want to have the path. Look at that. This is perfect. Schedule, roof, get high quality repairs, relax, total confidence. If you actually took the time to fill out your brand script right, that would be there automatically. We have an optional pricing. We have services, failure versus success. If you have a lead magnet, you can do that. And then boom, there's the junk drawer, which is the footer, which is a StoryBrand term. And then the crazy thing is it doesn't stop there. You can keep doing that. Like you can create all the copy from ChatGPT. You shouldn't. You should definitely take your time, look at it, and make sure that it's good. And also you can say open in Canvas and you can iterate on some of these things. You can say, give me 5 options for this header. And then you can go through and say, okay, I like option 3. Okay, now give me 5 options for this subheader. Okay, I like option 2, and then you can go back in and type a couple things and wordsmith it a little bit. And so that's a way that you can really go from having just kind of thin ChatGPT copy to making it better. And it's already going to be pretty good if you took time on the brand script assignment in day 14. And so this is the way that you can get like your version 1, your rough draft of your copy, just like that. Again, you should iterate on it. You should make it better. If you happen to be an SEO provider watching this video, I know you're watching this video, make sure you give it back to your clients so their voice can come through. But if you're a small business owner yourself, just make sure you get the people involved that you feel like the brand voice is coming through. Maybe it's the owner, maybe it's your salesperson, maybe it's your installer. Just give people a chance to provide human feedback on these pages, and that should really help out. But it's so much easier with a starting point like this. Like this is what AI is for. It's not for giving us the copy that we're going to just copy and paste it into our website builder and then go on about our merry days. It's about giving us a starting point and getting us so much farther along the path. And then we bring it home as humans. All right, so now that we have that ideal sitemap and we've been able to put copy based on the keyword clusters for each one of the services that we provide, you should have a way better website. Like this is amazing. And you're only on day 15. Okay, so let's keep going with day 16 now. We're about to get into day 16, which can talk about reviews. But I'm going to go back to this list of most important ranking factors. Again, they compile this list by interviewing top SEOs, local SEOs. And, there's big things like your primary business category. That's massively important. But number 6, number 8, number 13, and number 20 are all related to reviews. And this is for showing up in the map pack, which is the little area next to the map. And so if we go here, getting more reviews is super, super important. And we want to make sure not only are we getting more reviews, we're getting more reviews quantity wise, but we want to get high star reviews. We want to get them recently, and we want to get a steady stream of them. And then this is a much farther down importance, but we also want the keyword and location mentioned if possible. Now, there's a couple different ways to get your review link. This is the easiest way. Let's see if I still got this pulled up. If you go right here, so here's the GBP backend. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm looking at. Just click ask for reviews. And now not only do you have this handy link that you can just paste into an email, you also have this QR code and you can save it. You can post it somewhere. They're making it easier and easier. And then you definitely want to coach clients on what to write. Okay. And so you want to tell them like, hey, try to include 2 to 5 sentences, mention the specific services provided. If you can mention the city or even the neighborhood where it happened, especially for home service providers. And then last but not least, if you have a photo or video, the before and after work, especially for our service businesses that go out to people's homes, that could be massively helpful. And we even have a little review script that's fully written out in the actual playbook. So, don't look at this ChatGPT version. Go to 30dayseo.com, enter your email, and get the actual doc, and just skip on down to day 16. You'll get the actual review script there. I also talk about how to deal with 1-star reviews, and I talk about how to do like QR codes on like business cards to help get more reviews. This is really good for people to do jobs at people's houses. You can just leave those cards, make it really easy for people to leave reviews on the fly. And there's actually a video for this one, which should be linked up at the top. It's not. Let me add that. Look at that. We just edited it live. I guess I realized if I edit it live, it's not going to update the custom GPT. Whatever, we're doing it live. What was that old saying? Probably can't say that on YouTube. Anyway, well, I know I can't, but I'm not going to. Anyway, okay. So the takeaway from day 16 is get more and better reviews, and we have tools to help you do that. So take advantage of those tools, please. Okay, so I'm going to do a video specifically on this topic soon. So if I remember, I'll link it in the descriptions. If you come across this video and you don't see this linked in the description, leave a comment. I'll make sure to update this. But I like to call this competitor research in the SERPs, okay? And so basically what you're doing is you've already made your changes. you're seeing where you're ranking. And then at that point, you're like, okay, I'm not ranking first yet, which is pretty typical. And then you're going to say like, okay, what are the people on the top 10 doing? And maybe you're in the top 10. So if that's the case, you're also going to consider the 11th just to see what people are doing around you. But sometimes it could be little stuff like wording things. And so the big thing you're going to want to do is like look at your top keywords that you're already tracking. You're going to pull that up. You're going to look at the top 10 results, and you're going to use this tool called Screaming Frog. Now, again, I'm going to show you how to do this in a separate video later on, but that's the gist. Okay. The gist is that you're going to use Screaming Frog, and then you're going to just kind of look at it, spot the patterns, and maybe make some minor tweaks. Like this is literally like iterations at this point. So it's super cool, and I've actually been able to see some results from this. So yeah, make sure you have the actual doc, because when that gets done, I'll be sure to link to that. And I'm sure I'll get the custom GPT updated too. But yeah, I'm going to leave that there. This is a more advanced tactic, but it's super important to make sure you're actually looking at the SERP too, which stands for Search Engine Result Page. So again, this is much farther down the road, but you definitely want to do this stuff. And again, I'll make a specific video about this here in the next couple months. So be on the lookout for this one. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and be on the lookout for this one. All right, so quickie here. We're still talking about GBP management. So photos and Q&As are another way to have Google reward you, because we know Google rewards activity over time. And so make sure that you did your initial GBP photo optimization. Also, remember this dimension here, 1200 by 900. Pretty much every photo besides the logo and cover photo are going to be in this range. Now, when it comes to ongoing photo management, I encourage people at least once per month, if not weekly, you want to add a photo. It's pretty easy to do. I should probably show you how to do that real quick. You just go in here, click photos, and just drag it in here. You know, I need to update the photos on our profile, but that's how you do it. It's super easy. So make sure you're doing it. And then there's also a GBP Q&A. And so anybody can ask a question, anybody can answer a question. It's kind of scary. And so it's actually a good idea to pre-answer these questions. That way nobody else can ask them. You can also ask your own questions. So you can pre-ask questions. That's what I meant to say. So that way you don't have people asking the questions and then answering them for you. And so you just go to Q&A right here. You can ask the question and you can also answer it. And hey, once you get done with those, you can come through and give them a little thumbs up just to give it a little bit more engagement, right? And so, you know, for the photos, I'd love to get one per week. For the Q&A, not so much, maybe one per month. It would be good to maybe make a list of your top 5 that you actually get from your customers and clients and put those in there, but I wouldn't worry about doing this too much. And so, gosh, it's really going crazy with the emojis right now, isn't it? But yeah, make sure that your photos are looking good, get some recent photos in there, and then, you know, just try to answer a few questions, and then set yourself a monthly reminder to do this periodically. And especially if you have a team member, try to get them to add photos of recent projects, or if you have a physical location, also get some pictures of the spot that you work in. Now, remember, we've been talking about relevancy. Relevancy is related to your website and your GBP, but at this point, it's time to build authority. Now, we're just going to talk about it here. I'm going to introduce the concept because I want to make sure you know what that even means, because a lot of small business owners don't know that. So we're introducing the concept today so that way you're ready to go. Your brain is starting to get primed, and then we're going to talk about our actual strategy for how we do that in a little bit. All right, so authority is this concept in local SEO that can be really confusing. And so just know, like when I'm talking about authority, I am talking about backlinks. A backlink is a link from one website pointing to your website. Not all links are equal, okay? Some have a higher quality, some have a better relevance. When it comes to local SEO, we're really only worried about locally relevant and industry relevant backlinks, okay? Those are the ones that have the most relevance to us. Now, there are definitely high quality links, medium quality links, and low quality links. We're going to talk about those in a second. Now, one thing I encourage you to do, and you can do this with the free one, is checking your authority score in SEMrush. If you are a fan of Ahrefs and you've been using them all along, they use domain rating, DR. So I would encourage you to just take a look. Most small businesses are in the low single digits. And so that means you got a lot of room for growth. If you're over 10 already, that's a good sign. And if somehow you're over 30, then you're higher than anybody that's ever reached out to me before. And so start thinking about some of the places where you might already be featured, because in week 4, we're actually going to try to maybe see if any of those links are available, but we just haven't got them yet. And if you want, you can also check your competitor's authority score. It's not I should say that these scores aren't perfect. Like behind the scenes, Google has a score that looks like authority score or domain rating, but it's not publicly visible. So, these tools have analogs. That's the best guess that we have. And so if you're just using that for consistency's sake, then at least you have something. All right, but back to relevancy, because we're not quite done with it yet. We want to start talking about location pages. So location pages are a good complement to service pages. So now that your service pages are dialed in, you've done your competitor research in the SERPs, and you're like, okay, I have my service page dialed in about as much as possible. So let's say you have a roofing repair page in Bend, Oregon. Now it's time to get a roofing repair page in Redmond, Oregon, which is the next town over. And so really all you want to do, look, it's already doing it, right? If you have one that's based on Bend, you want to do one for Redmond, you could be missing out. So these are great because some of your surrounding cities will have lower competition, or sometimes they'll have higher competition. So you still want to build this page, but worry about it over time. So the big thing for V1 location pages is you want to just focus on the SEO hotspots, which you should know. Go back a little bit if you don't know. And then you also want to just make sure that there's any mentions of the original city, that you swap those out for the new city. Now, these things are for later. Okay, this is ChatGPT getting it wrong, but that's okay. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to start small. Okay, we're going to start small, build out the very basics, just literally a Command F or Control F version of this, where we're just starting with the basics and just swapping out one city for the other. Don't do anything beyond a 2-hour radius. And I'm a big fan of about one location page per week. And then make sure you're submitting these to Google Search Console to index them. Do not mass produce these. I've had people reach out to this channel before with hundreds of location pages and they're not ranking very highly. And they said, what am I doing wrong? And I said, well, your sitemap increased, 100-fold overnight. And I wonder if Google thought that looked spammy. So I encourage you, just start with your, top nearby city and maybe build like 3 or 4 out. I would say for most clients, we probably only build out about 4 to 6 location pages on average, if that sometimes. And then, I would say if that. And I don't think we've done a whole lot more than 10 for one client in particular I'm thinking about right now. So anyway, if you've done this much to your SEO at this point, if you've been following along and you've literally done 20 days worth of actions and you made it to day 21, well, it's time to check back in. So remember what the most important things were for local SEO, right? It was figuring out the right keywords to target, showing up for those searches, showing up higher, and then getting seen on Google, which is going to result in traffic, right? So here's the things that you want to look at. One, you want to look at your keyword tracking, whether it was SERP, Fox, or SEMrush. You want to check, are you trending in the right direction? If you're not, that makes you think like, okay, well, what are we doing wrong? What have we not done yet? Sam told us to do this. Have we done it yet? And if you have and you're not seeing results, well, then leave a comment below and we can talk about it, okay? Google Search Console, remember, that's massively important for showing us impressions on Google, which are views, daily views on Google. GA4 is really just to make sure that we're getting the traffic and the percentage seems right. We don't necessarily want direct to be lower than organic, but if organic search is higher than direct traffic, which are people like typing in domain.com, then that's great. That means that most of the people that are showing up to the website are coming from Google. I prefer to just watch a few of the session recordings. Are people getting stuck on anything? Is there anything wonky that we need to fix? Keep checking that site audit. Have any new pages popped up that have caused some issues? It creates a weekly report so you can go back. You don't have to worry about scheduling it. It'll already be done. And then also check out GeoGrid tools like Local Falcon. Local Falcon's not free, but what it does, it lets you create a little grid of your area and it shows you where you're showing up in the map pack or not in the map pack for those local searches. And so it's a massively helpful tool. And you want to make sure this is another thing that you probably could include in your initial scan. So you can see oh, have I made any growth yet? But I would this tool costs money. So a lot of times I try not to encourage stuff that you're going to have to pay for. But for $25 per month, even if you're a small business, this could be massively helpful. So right now we're just looking at these 6 checkpoints and we're seeing, is there anything that we could be doing better? And if there is, we should probably start working on those before we jump into the next week. But it's time to level up again. Are you ready? So the last couple of weeks, we worked on our technical and structural SEO. We got our content creation going. We even worked on our GBP, but now it is time to be authority building. Let's go build that authority. So, we could do a whole masterclass just on the link building pages from this, but what I'm going to have it do is just kind of give us a high level overview of these ones. And so when it comes to my backlink strategy, and by the way, there's a newer video on the channel that totally dives into this as well. And so if you want to see different perspective or you need some more background on backlinks, I encourage you to check out that video. I'm going to try to remember to link that one in the description below. But this is a long video, so I might forget. So if I forget, leave a comment and be like, hey, you forgot the backlink video. But you can also find it on the channel too. But hey, leave that comment if I forgot, okay? So my strategy here, it really should be the other way around. I should say the strategy first, but it's like, I want to blend the amount of links from each category so that way it looks more natural. Also, I'm like trying to build links over time, like consistently weekly. Now, when it comes to links for local businesses, the main place that you're going to be doing that is on directories. Okay, I'm just going to say that right now. That's the main place you're going to be building links. Okay, there are premier grade links, which are like local publications and chambers and things like that. These are the top tier. Now, not to be confused with top grade, which are high authority directories, listicles, or referral platforms. Then mid grade are citation services, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Low grade is like more of like general directories. And then we also have some trash links. So even though these aren't that good, you still want to get a few of them. Okay. And like generally speaking, like if you're like each week, you're going to do like 3 or like, let's say like 4, 3, 2, 1, or 1, right? Like that's how many you're going to have. So anyway, that's just like the general structure. So what are premier grade links? Premier grade links are the most valuable. I like to call them the creme de la creme. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but if you can get listed on a local news outlet, you have a link from your profile for the Chamber of Commerce pointing back to your website, that's great. And also any like really high authority industry directories for your industry. Like for instance, I always think of like Psychology Today for mental health professionals. So good. So just make sure that you figure out how to get listed on those sites, and those could be massively helpful. You might only have 2 to 3 links altogether that are in this premier category, so space them out if you don't already have them. Next up are going to be the top backlinks. I like to consider these are the ones that are showing up in the top 100 results of the SERPs. So what you're going to do is you're going to look for high ranking directories, best of listicles, and any review or referral platforms. Again, you're going to use your primary keyword, whatever that might be, or first 100 results in the SERPs, and you're going to see, can I get listed on the site? Always double check your like authority score in SEMrush and like traffic. If it's tanking out to 0, then it's not worth taking the time to get in there. But you usually can find 5 to 10 results just from going through these SERPs. Now, don't worry about this. This is ChatGPT doing its thing. Cross that out. Citation backlinks really help with just kind of telling Google that you're a local business. That's the way I would consider them helpful. If it was still 2018, I would say this might be one of the most important things to do for your local SEO efforts, but it's not, but it's still massively important. I think it gets help, or I think it can still help out. And so what I like to do is I like to run 2 waves of Bright Local. Whitespark's another really good tool that's out there, but we use Bright Local. So we do 2 waves, and we start with like kind of a high wave or high citation and low citation, a nice blend. And we kind of do like every other link. We do that. It usually costs about $125 per run. And then after the 6 weeks, we do it again. And that's how we do it. Now, all these sites you can get listed yourself. And so you just kind of got to decide like, do I want to spend the time or do I want to spend the money? At this point, we want to spend the money. So that's how we do it. And then last but not least is competitor backlinks. Now, I'm going to actually do a video later on. This is on the request list where I do like a full breakdown of how we do this. But generally speaking, it's the backlink gap analysis in SEMrush. This is one of the things you're going to want to save your free trial for. Remember, thencandesigns.com/SEMrush, SEMRUSH. You can get a free 7-day trial, especially for you guys and gals out there that are trying to get better at local SEO. But I will also make a video for this. And on that one, I'm going to be dropping that link a lot. So anyway, that is competitor backlinks. This is where a lot of trash links show up, but you do want to do this early on because sometimes some really high value backlinks will show up here. And so my encouragement, just to refresh really quick, is to go through each one of these categories and get all of your links together. And then you can kind of pick your strategy of like, okay, I'm going to build these links week 1, I'm going to build these links week 2, et cetera, et cetera. I think this is the best way to build a very natural backlink profile. And we've seen our clients with natural backlink profiles ranking much higher than ones with suspicious or dangerous backlink profiles. All right, so authority building is massively helpful, but we are not done with relevancy. So there's 2 more days left in week 4. One of them talks about how we can revamp our service and location pages. And there's another one that talks about what's not working for local SEO so you don't start heading down the wrong direction. So in day 25, we actually talk about, it mentions location pages version 2, but this also works for service pages. Okay. And so there's 3 big upgrades you can do to your V1 location pages or service pages. And the first one is by adding a featured project. If you're, some type of contractor, include lots of before and after images and project details. There's going to be a reason for that here in a second. If you're a coach or some kind of like medical practitioner, describe a client transformation or success story. Obviously, anonymize it. Don't mention their name specifically or, their conditions and all that stuff. But, if you have a client that's willing to kind of be an advocate for you, this can be massively helpful. And also, guess what? By the time you get done writing this, it's going to have so many keywords in it and it's going to be so natural. Okay. Like that's the benefit to this. And by the way, we're going to also look for some location specific and also service specific testimonials. And so again, what are we doing? We're getting the right keywords in the right spot. And then last but not least, a custom FAQ section. So a city specific as well as service specific questions with lots of keywords in there. Check the people also ask section on Google. That can be a great place to look. And also just like you could reach out to your old customers, your old clients, like what questions did you have before you got here? Or you just have those questions that people ask. And so make sure you're adding those here. That could be so helpful. And then now that we're done with this, we want to figure out what's not working for local SEO right now. And so I did a video on this where I said, the 4 SEO scams that you want to avoid with a funny thumbnail recently. But these are so true. I see this all the time. The first strategy that's not working is a blog heavy strategy because, I just watched a video about this today. It's like, if you see an SEO package with a set number of blog posts per month, sorry, there was an annoying car driving by there. But if you see an SEO plan with a set number of blog posts per month, run away. Okay. That is just not how local SEO works. Notice we've gone through 28 days of actions for your local SEO. We have not talked about blogs yet. We're going to talk about them here in a second, but they do not help because here's the thing. People don't search for how to replace a leaky faucet near me. No, like people will look up that article for sure. But if you're able to get that blog post to rank, it's not going to be people that can actually work with you. It's going to be people from all over the country. Anyway, I digress. You can watch that video if you want to see more about that. Another one is an overemphasis on citations. People will go through, agencies will pitch these citation only plans. Hey, that would have been massively helpful in 2018. And citations are still a part of local SEO, but they're not a big part that you need to be paying for separately. So what they're doing is they're just white labeling something like Bright Local, and they're charging you $300 per month to not only get those set up, but to make sure they stay consistent. But NAP consistency, name, address, phone number consistency is not important anymore. Google has changed the way the search engine works. It's semantic now, which means it doesn't need to be an exact match. Like 10 years ago, it mattered if it said street versus ST. That hasn't mattered for years, but people are still selling services that make sure that stuff stays consistent. Now, if you've changed locations at some point, it's good to run these tools once to get everything dialed back in, but then you're done. It's not an ongoing service. I'm not saying that SEO is not an ongoing service, but this NAP consistency isn't. What they'll do is they'll sell you on a low price SEO plan. Just focus on this. You get a little bit of results, but not a lot. That's if you have your relevancy dialed in. And then from there, they'll upsell you to a much bigger plan. And I don't like those bait and switch tactics. Anyway, another scam that's out there are guaranteed SEO results. Here's the thing. Nobody knows what the Google algorithm is. Most people that work at Google don't know what the Google search algorithm is. And so anybody that guarantees SEO results is either a charlatan or they are way ballsier than me. I'm going to say that word even though I know I shouldn't, because it's just, I don't know. It's like you can't see into a crystal ball. And if you have a crystal ball that works, you should do so for way better purposes than SEO. So anyway, what I tell my potential clients when we're on sales calls is I say, I can't promise you that I'll get you to rank number one, but I do promise me and my team will work our asses off for you. Okay. That's what we're going to do for you. And people like that. We have a lot of clients that work with us based on that promise and not on this promise where we're going to get you to rank first for whatever keyword. And a lot of times when they do that, they're going to get you to rank first for a keyword that nobody actually searches for, which is BS anyway. There's a current trend right now in marketing lanes where people are propping up this fake thing called CTR manipulation. It's actually not fake. It can get you quick results, but it doesn't stick. Please go watch the scam video on this channel. If I remember, I'll link it below in the description. Please watch that because I actually show you a case, or I shouldn't say case study, like a research study that was done by Joy Hawkins, who's way better at local SEO than me. And they were able to do CTR manipulation and it worked temporarily. So definitely go watch that video. But just make sure, like, especially if you're going to reach out for help when it comes to local SEO, like avoid these scams and avoid these tactics while you're on local SEO. Like YouTube channels, if they're mentioning this stuff, don't do it. Okay. Just focus on what we've been telling you. Trust me. Okay. So in the last couple of levels, you were working on your content creation and your review strategy. Now you've been building authority and it's time to reach the final level, the final couple of days. We're going to analyze how we've been doing this. We're going to figure out how we can scale some last second things. And we're going to end with a bonus of day 31. And we're going to see how we can see how long is this even going to take. So remember, you're trying to get a steady stream of consistent leads so that we keep getting jobs. So that way you stay booked out. Okay. And the big thing you need to do is you need to make sure you keep reviewing and analyzing your SEO strategy. In day 29, we talk about that through the story of George, one of the more popular videos on this channel. We talk about his success story, and he's actually somebody that's gotten over 5 figures consistently. And we're talking like 20 to 30 grand or 25 to 35 grand per month just from SEO. Our guy has like 26 projects in contract right now. He's got 4 full-time helpers. He's expanding to a new workspace. It's crazy. Okay. You know, he went from invisible to page 4 to now first. Okay. And so the first thing we did is we worked on his GBP and we got that dialed in. Then we worked on his website and we worked on the service pages and we worked on those location pages. And then finally, what did we do after that? We built authority. We followed the process that we're laying out here in the 30-day local SEO playbook, and we've been getting massive results. Okay, what you want to do is, you know, maybe it's every week, maybe it's every month, but you want to review each one of those 3 things. Remember, those are the 3 things that matter most for local SEO. There's a reason why I keep mentioning that, because those are the things that you want to keep looking at. And when you're actually looking at these things, like if you did a monthly SEO review checklist, make sure you're doing updates. Make sure you're checking the metrics for your GBP. Make sure that your website's structured fine and that you're actually starting to see impressions, right? And you're starting to see traffic, which also has to do with your ranking. Are you ranking for all the keywords you want to be ranking for? Are you ranking higher? You want to check on your backlink progress. Are you building links consistently? Is that helping your authority score go up over time? That's not always like super related, but keep track of those things. And then finally, are we getting actual leads? Are you reviewing your metrics? If you're a small business owner, you should be able to feel the efforts of your local SEO progress that you've been doing. If you're a service provider that's doing SEO for clients, then you got to make sure that you're checking in with your clients. Are they actually getting results? And if they're not, maybe it's time to ask them, like, you know, what else could we be doing? Because sometimes they have insights that we don't have. Okay, we've done a lot. And now it's time to touch that nasty local SEO B word. That's right, blogs. It's time to talk about it. So here's the thing. I don't hate blogs, all right? Sometimes I call myself a blog hater, but I'm really not. I think blogs can act as resources, knowledge documents, and they also have other secret ways that can help build authority that we're going to talk about here in just a couple seconds. But the thing is, we have to make sure that we're focusing on transactional content. That starts with your money pages, homepage, service page, location pages. Informational content can help us with our top of the funnel traffic, and it can earn natural backlinks. So these can be helpful to do, but I'm a big fan of knocking out everything before we get there. And I know this has been 30 days worth of activities, but a lot of this stuff is going to take you way more than 30 days. And so usually this is about 6 months into the campaign at the earliest, usually more like 9, 10, 11, maybe even as we start our next campaign after the first 12 months. So remember, with the money pages, we're trying to rank for service terms to convert visitors. And we did this right away. For informational content, these are more how-to and questions. We're probably going to attract people outside of our area, but we're also hoping that occasionally we get people in our area. That would be great. Now, the biggest thing that we have to do is we have to make sure, and kind of ChatGPT is kind of losing the tree to the forest here. So definitely check the original doc here. But we have to make sure, like, we have our money keywords, right? Our primary keywords that we've come up with a long time ago. And we have our related keywords that we're probably targeting here. Some of those related keywords, we want to remember that for our informational searches, but we want to now do a new round of keyword research where we're almost getting the informational intent. We didn't even look at that. Remember, we filtered those out. We're going back through, we're getting the informational intent. Maybe checking out the people also asked section on Google, and that can help us with this content. But what we need to make sure is that none of the stuff we do steps on the toes of our money pages that are now ranking and maybe even getting us business. Okay, so that's the number one thing we have to make sure we do. Now, what kind of information can we use for informational intent keywords? Now, I think the biggest things you can do is what you want to do is you want to build stuff that A, is helpful for your clients just in general. So any kind of knowledge-based article, great, that's fine. Beyond that, a calculator, maybe even a quiz or a checklist or like a guide, those are all things that could be massively helpful. And I actually did something like this recently, fully taken advantage of it. But if you go to calc.localseoacademy.co, this is going to interest the SEO providers way more, but this is just an example of a tool. Me and ChatGPT made this in about 2 hours. And what it is the web design business forecast tool. Okay. I showed this off at a summit talk recently. People lost their damn minds. Okay. And it's basically like, how do you calculate how much you need to pay each team member? Or, well, it's actually more of like, how many projects do you need to pay each team member fairly? And, it's like breaking down like different roles. You could customize it. You could just start over. And it all has to do with MRR and all that stuff. And the calculations are down here. It's too zoomed out, so you can't really see it. But me and AI made that in a couple hours. Now, let's say you're a mortgage broker and you just need a freaking calculator to help people with, a mortgage calculation for a certain type of mortgage. Now, with the combination of a modern AI model like a Grok 3 or a Claude 3.7 with thinking or a ChatGPT o3 High, you can, like, with one prompt, you probably already have the calculator you need. And then it's just a little bit of working on the CSS to make it blend in with the rest of your site. And you just use a code module and you put it in right there. Like, what? Like, these are actual tools that other people might link to. And if you just share it a few times on your, Facebook or your Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever, like, people will start to link to this. Like, oh, this is actually a good calculator. Now, this is going to catch on and people are going to start doing this more and more. And so, your calculator might not be as good as the next calculator. That's fine. Take advantage of this stuff, because if you can build those links, that can be massively helpful. Remember, authority is the name of the game. If we can build more authority, that can help us rank higher. So I'm not a huge fan of blogs. You've heard me say that once. I'll say it a million times. But if it can be helpful for your potential clients to add some kind of knowledge-based articles, I think that could be good. Just make sure you do not step on the toes of your money pages. And now you've made it through the 30-day local SEO playbook. But before we go, we have one more day that can help you kind of decide, like, how long will it take to get results from local SEO. Now, before we go over day 31, which is our bonus day, I just want to encourage everybody, if you're a small business owner and you get stuck anywhere along the way, go to thencandesigns.com/SEO, click the orange button, and you can get a free SEO strategy video. If you scroll down to the very bottom of the 30-day local SEO playbook, you can actually watch an example video of that and you can see what that looks like. You can see it's not just some scammy AI bot thing making it. It's me sitting down, taking time like I did making this video. So why don't you go fill out the form? It takes 5 minutes to fill it out. So, okay, if you get stuck, you'd be like, hey, I'm on day 14 right now, I'm trying to figure out how to do this brand script thing. Help me, please. Or maybe something a little bit more practical than that. That was a bad day to choose as an example, but I'm doing this live, so oh well. And then also, like, if you're an SEO provider and you've been watching this whole time and you're like, dang, I really like this guy's teaching style and I want to learn more from him, you should definitely check out Local SEO Academy. We have 2 different tiers. We have the courses tier, which I encourage for people that do not have clients already. And we have the community tier for people that have clients and are going to need help. And so you can jump in and have chats. And that code right there is to help you out. By the way, in the community, we have weekly calls now. So that's really cool. So go back a couple seconds ago, my head wasn't covering that. So you can get that code and jump in with a massive discount. All right, and this brings me to day 31. How long is it going to take to get results from your local SEO efforts? Okay. Now, the reason why this can be helpful is, if you think this is going to happen overnight and it doesn't, you're going to be disappointed. Okay. There's actually a way to do this. So one thing you can do is, it might be helpful to look at the keyword difficulty, because that's just kind of like a general idea of like, okay, if it's over 40, that's pretty high, right? But the main thing that you can do is you want to look at your authority scores, okay? And so the way you can do this, I'll show you really fast. You have to be on a paid plan to do this. And so again, if you have your 7-day free trial, thencandesigns.com/semrush. If you have your 7-day free trial, SEMrush, this is one of those actions that you want to do during your free trial, okay? Okay, so a million years ago, remember we identified roofing contractors Bend, Oregon as our top keyword. And so what you do is you go down here, I gotta get my head out of the way, and you're gonna look in this column over here. Okay, this column over here, see it says domain authority score. And what you're going to notice, the more you do SEO, if you check this page, so again, we're on the keyword overview tool right now for SEMrush, keyword overview. It shows volume, keyword difficulty, and CPC. Those are the main things that people look at if you watch SEMrush videos. But you got to look down here. Okay, this is the stuff that people forget. This column, domain authority score, 26, 18, 13, 12, 7, 9, 9. Now, I skipped a couple. Why did I skip those? The ones I skipped were Better Business Bureau had 79, Yelp had 100, and then Scott's Rufus down here. That's a big company in town. Notice that there's kind of a trend with the authority score. They tend to have backlinks tend to go down with the authority score. Now, what I should mention is that a better metric for backlinks is not the backlink number, but it's actually referring domains. So the actual website's pointing, because you can have 100, you can have 1,000 backlinks coming from one domain, which is the domain.com right up in the URL. That looks spammy. You really don't want to do it like that. And so I don't even like looking at that other column, but I do like looking at this authority score, okay? Because it's giving me the general trend of how this is going down. And so once I have all of this information, and of course you're going to do this for one of your primary keywords, you want to look and you want to say, okay, where am I at? If your authority score is higher than your competitors, then you can probably get results very quickly. It's probably actually a relevancy issue. You need to work on all the stuff we talked about the first 3 weeks of this strategy. If you're close, like you're within 5 points, then probably less than 6 months, you can start seeing some results. And by results, I don't mean showing up first. I mean showing up high enough where you start getting contact form submissions. Again, you're going to have to check on your website. Are there any sticking points, right? And then last but not least, if your 10 points or higher, that's when you kind of fell into that category where you're like, okay, it's going to take a little bit longer to really start to rank. But if you stick with it, you can start chipping away over time, okay? So that's the way that you can kind of estimate how long SEO will take to get results. Again, these are ballparks. I don't stick to any of these. I don't use these as official guides, but I do use these as general guides in my head and sometimes with my team. And so what's the point of all this? Well, I asked ChatGPT and this is what it said. We want you to get more traffic, leads, and clients, okay? Local SEO works. We've seen it work for our clients. We've seen it work for our own business. And I've seen it work inside a local SEO academy with my students. So it's just like, if you are a local service business and you're not getting the results you want, you now have over an hour of video that you need to hit rewind on and go back through meticulously. Bookmark this page. Take it seriously. Remember, 30dayseo.com will take you to the Google Doc You got to enter your email, fair trade, right? And then 30dayseo.com/chat. That will take you directly to our little custom GPT. Again, it's kind of untested, so let me know how your experience goes with that. I can't really control everything because it's just Chat GPT, but still, I'm excited to see what people do with that. And then keep going, keep striving, because this can be your year. Go forth and start making money from Google, and be sure to leave your success story below in the comments because we want to hear about it. Make sure you're subscribed because we're trying to be the best local SEO channel on YouTube, and I'll catch you in the next video.